wait is over. The show that you love is back. Pusong Pinoy, angkong ko, Series 4. Sponsor back. World ready.
Uy, kuya, nakalimutan mong birthday ni mama ngayon, no?
Walang problema. Magpapadala na lang ako sa World Remit. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Oh, ha? Ay, lagot. Si mama tumatawag. Happy birthday, ma!
Salamat anak, natanggap ko na ang padala mong pera from World Remit. Akala ko nakalimutan mo na eh.
Siyempre, ma. Ako pa.
Hi, we're Fourth Impact, and hello to all the viewers of Pusong Pinoy with Malcolm Conlan.
Thank you for always supporting Fourth Impact, and please, you can download our new song, No More.
And all digital platforms.
Yes.
And you can follow us on all our social media accounts. Just type Fourth Impact, and everything is verified. So, thank you. God bless everyone. Keep safe.
Hi, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be back with you guys again on Sunday afternoon. Magandang gabi to everyone in the Philippines, and of course, hello to everybody around the world. Thank you so much for tuning in to another exciting episode of Pusong Pinoy with Malcolm Conlan. I'm very pleased to announce that we have Atty Cystal Dias with us today. She's a very qualified, very experienced lawyer. I'd also like to thank World Remit, our partners, for very kindly sponsoring this show and for believing in us in our journey in supporting Filipinos, not only in the UK, but around the world, because I know World Remit also helps Filipinos back home in the Philippines. I'm very excited to announce that I randomly sent money to the Philippines last month, and I won a tablet for my family back home in the Philippines. So I'd like to thank World Remit for that. Anyway, getting on to today's episode. Today we're going to be discussing all things to immigrations. So hello, Atty Cystal Dias. How are you doing?
Hello, Malcolm. Magandang hapon sa'yo. Thank you for inviting me here on your show again, Series 4 of Pusong Pinoy.
Maraming salamat po and magandang hapon. We should just talk in Filipino for the whole episode, right?
Let me do that.
I'm not sure if I'd be able to. So I know that we featured you before when we were speaking about the Philippine Women's Association and the fantastic work that they do. But also I thought it might be nice to invite you back because I know we both have our concerns over Pinoys getting scammed, etc. And I know over immigration issues. So tell me a little bit more about how you got into law and what you actually do on a day-to-day basis. Tell me a little bit more about yourself.
So I qualified in 2003 as a solicitor. I got interested in law because I wanted to be the first one or the first woman in my family to become a professional. It's either being a doctor or a lawyer. I don't like blood, so I chose to become a lawyer. But I found it very interesting because it pretty much rule our lives on a daily basis. And eventually, when I qualified, I worked for a British firm for a few years. And then in 2008, in the middle of recession, I said to myself, I want to have my own law firm. And I was actually a property lawyer. I wasn't into immigration at all. It was my husband, Christopher Dias, who started off as an immigration paralegal, and then he qualified and specialized in immigration. And we used to talk about the cases he dealt with, and everything that he did. It affected people's lives. It changed their lives. And I said, I want to do that. So when I set up my own law firm, I started off as an immigration lawyer. I studied it. My husband actually trained me to do immigration before setting up our own business. So I'm lucky and fortunate that he was there to mentor me. And 12 years later, we're still here, and I'm so happy that after all these years, my work has been recognized by the outside world. I received an award, but the icing on the cake would be this year when the Law Society shortlisted Dias solicitors for the Small Law Firm of the Year award. So I'm grateful for that.
Congratulations. I'm really pleased to hear that. It's really nice that you are making a significant impact, not only in the Philippine community through your voluntary work, but you genuinely are helping Filipinos to change their life. The fact is that having a regular status in the UK means that people can work, support their families, because as we both know, during lockdown, it's been so hard for undocumented Filipinos. Can you just tell us a little bit first about the challenges that they might face here in the UK?
Well, I actually had a discussion with Kalaya and the barrister there, because obviously, as you know, Kalaya and they promote campaign for the rights of the domestic workers, and most of them, even some of them, maybe they don't have the status to work. The issue that we're facing at the moment with undocumented is they're facing abuse from other people, for example, employers. So they continue on working for their employers, but they're scared to go out because obviously of the pandemic. But the fact that they're staying is that the employers may not pay them the correct amount of the correct salary, and they could be opening themselves to further abuse, like, as we know, they take their passport, not being able to go out at all, stuck in the house, overworked, things like that. So it is very risky to be in that situation. They can't leave, Malcolm. The fact is that if they leave, where are they going to go? They've got nothing. They've got nowhere else to go, and it's going to be very hard for them to earn money elsewhere.
So people say this actually happens in the Middle East, but actually, as we both know, it's not only in the Middle East that Filipinos have this trouble. It's also in the UK. I've even heard some diplomats treating their Filipino staff incredibly badly and then claiming diplomatic immunity. It happens on all levels. It's really a big issue. What's the solution? I don't think there is a solution. Maybe I'll answer that question myself. I don't think there is a solution, but hopefully you and your colleagues are maybe campaigning for a better life for these Filipinos in need. Have you lobbied anybody? Is that something that you're concerned about?
Well, yes, we actually have a couple of cases where they run away from their employers, and we've applied to the Home Office. Well, not us, but we channeled them to a Salvation Army, because they are first responders and they assess the situation if they're actually a victim of modern slavery. So I'm actually involved in that. And the cases we've applied for, the Home Office has recognized that potentially there's a reasonable ground of them as the victim of modern slavery. But you have to have the conclusive ground. And that is basically what's taking forever to get. At the moment, it's taking at least 2 years before the Home Office can make any decision. So it's really, we can, there's only so much we can do by chasing the Home Office for any updates, things like that. But yes, I'm dealing with that type of situation, with that type of case. But we'll just have to wait and see what's the it's up to the Home Office to reply, really. But we can only chase. We are chasing. We're doing something. Yes.
What message would you give to maybe somebody in the UK who's here as an overstayer? Maybe they've been here for a number of years. They don't really know how to turn to. They're in a never-ending situation, i.e. they're working just enough to pay their rent, pay for their accommodation, but they can't see a way out. Is there any way that they can move forward? What are the sort of terms in terms of you have to be here a certain number of years before you can get made, if you like, a resident? Can you just give us a little bit in a nutshell about what the process is?
Okay. So when they come to me, so I give them free advice initially, and they set out their case, because it's on a case-by-case basis, Malcolm. It's not the same for everyone, so just people would know. And then they tell me how long they've been in the UK, what ties they have in the UK, things like that. But the most reason they would tell me that they haven't actually done anything in their situation is because of, they are just working to support their family back home. So they're not really worried about their own situation. They're just worried about earning money, sending it to their family, even if they've been here for 10 years, 14 years, they're not really, there's nothing much they can do apart from work, cash in hand, and then send it over to their family. Now, what type of application we can do for them, Malcolm? So that's actually a good question. Depending on their situation, as I said earlier. So you have, just to simplify, you can either base it on private life or family life. So say, for example, you have been in the UK for 20 years, okay? And you are able to support that claim by having, evidence. Then you can apply to regularize your stay on the basis of 20 years living in the UK. But that's such a long time. It's, if you've just arrived here, you have to wait 20 years. Or if you've been here, a lot of them saying, I've been here 10 years, 14 years, I'm sorry, but it is really not that easy to make an application. You have to wait 20 years supported by documentary evidence. A lot of people were told that you can now make an application, and if you've been here 10 years, 14 years, the rule may be different in 2012. It changed in July 2012, where if you've been here 14 years, then you can actually apply for indefinite leave to remain. But that changed when the whole immigration rules changed drastically in 2012. We've got now, after July 2012, you have to apply for leave to remain if you can prove you've been in the UK for 20 years. It's not actually settlement, it's leave to remain. So effectively, if you've been in the UK and completing that leave to remain for another 10 years, you've got to be in the UK for 30 years altogether before you're able to apply for settlement. And that's a long time.
It's a lifetime for
it is
many.
a lifetime. You're not able to see your children after, within the 20-year period. Of course, if you're granted limited leave, you are given 2.5 years. And then you have to keep extending that up to 10 years before you can apply for indefinite leave. Now, the other way you can make an application is family life. And that is if you have ties in the UK. For example, if we got married to a British national, or you have a British child. So you don't have to wait 20 years. You can actually make an application in country. So my advice normally is that if you are able to apply out of country, it makes a difference. So you can start afresh. And then as long as you're able to meet the requirements, it's better to apply out of country. If not, then we can try in country and then see if you meet the rules. You know, there's a way around it, but I can explain to you in detail if you like, but I think we're going to have a break. Let me know if we
Yeah,
need
let's
to.
just go for a quick break. And I have one more
Okay.
question to try and maybe clarify. But in the meantime, we'll just go for a break. Thank you so much for watching.
Hi, my name's Jane Walker. I'm the founder and the CEO of the Purple Community Fund. We work with some of the poorest children and families in the Philippines. We run an integrated service plan from education, health, nutrition, social intervention, livelihood workshops, right the way through to business startups. And our goal is really to see as many Filipino families as we possibly can help to have a better and more sustainable and safe life. I have this great pleasure of welcoming you to Pusong Pinoy with Malcolm Conlan. And I've known Malcolm for a very long time, and he has been a massive supporter of the Purple Community Fund. In fact, Malcolm's been a massive supporter of pretty much everything Filipino. His drive, his passion and his energy is just absolutely admirable. He is a voice for the Filipino community in Britain. He supports all up-and-coming bands and charities that are doing work in the Philippines, and I know you are going to really enjoy this show.
Uy, kuya, nakalimutan mong birthday ni mama ngayon, no?
Walang problema. Magpapadala na lang ako sa World Remit. 1, 2, 3. Oh. Oh, ha? Ay, lagot. Si mama tumatawag. Happy birthday, ma!
Salamat anak, natanggap ko na ang padala mong pera from World Remit. Akala ko nakalimutan mo na eh.
Siyempre, ma. Ako pa.
Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for joining us again. Thank you so much to World Remit. I just wanted to get a little bit of clarification quickly from Attorney Dias on the routes for people who want to stay in the UK. Basically, from what I can see, it's really an impossibility for somebody to stay here on the grounds of living here for 20 years. It's very, very rare. The majority of people who've been here for 20 years, maybe they are going to be so tired, maybe they're in a very difficult situation. That's almost like winning the lottery. It's a very rare case that somebody can live here for 20 years nowadays, particularly with the difficulty of securing accommodation and everything else. So the other route that you're talking about is actually applying from the Philippines. That does seem to be a better route, but how can somebody do that? If somebody's back home in the Philippines and they want to come and live here in the UK, what are the options for them, and maybe what should they avoid?
Just to, it's a good point that you've mentioned about the 20-year route. It's rare, but we have done a couple of cases recently, and they've got it. So it is doable. It can be successful. But if you actually want to go back to the Philippines and make a fresh application to the UK, it depends on your situation. So if you have a family, like you've married a British national, then you apply on a partner route. So meeting the financial requirement, meeting the maintenance requirement, accommodation, relationship, English language test, TB test, and all of that. So just make sure that you meet those requirements. But if you're not coming on a partner route, then, and there is something else that you are actually coming for another reason to come to the UK, that could be by work or by by studying in the UK, yes, it is possible. So the rules are actually changing, Malcolm, at the beginning of this in January 2021, and because of Brexit. So if you're actually thinking of coming to the UK, just make sure that you meet the requirements. Now, the level at the moment they're looking for is level 6. So it's actually quite a highly skilled level. But as of January next year, it's going to go down to level 3. So it's a lower level. And a lot of Filipinos nowadays, they come as a professional. We have the nurses, we have engineers. But when this whole thing started, the points-based system started in 2008, a lot of Filipinos came in as a student and switched to work as carers, as senior carers. That's coming back at the beginning of the year in 2021. But you just have to watch out, because there's a minimum salary that they have to meet. And it's only senior carers working in a residential care home, not in a private household. So that's the
Can I just say that really completely endorses why I voted for Brexit. As you know, when I did some Facebook Live videos before Brexit, I don't know if you remember back, but one of the reason why I voted for Brexit was to put it on a level playing field. Obviously, as us as part of the European Union, as you know, if you were an employer looking for somebody to work for you, you'd have to go within Europe first, and only if you couldn't find anybody within the UK or Europe could you then go to a country outside the EU. But of course, now with the Brexit, I wanted it to be a level playing field. If you have that skill we need, why can't I get somebody from the Philippines to be a carer? Why do I have to get somebody from the EU? I might believe that somebody from the Philippines might possess a certain set of skills that I wanted. And this is exactly why I voted for Brexit. And of course, I believe that fully endorses that.
For the immigration side of things, you're right. I remember saying that after Brexit, that everybody will now be in the same level, in the same playing field. European nationals can still come here without a visa within the 6-month period. But if they want to work and study, they would have to meet exactly the same immigration requirements like anybody else from outside the EU.
And I think that's great. Of course, I think immigration can be a good thing. I think we need skilled workers from all around from Europe, from outside Europe. But I personally believe that Filipinos possess a fantastic set of qualities in terms of them being caring, resourceful, resilient. That's not to say I'm against other nationalities, not at all. I welcome all nationalities. But for me, in my opinion, Filipinos possess they're caring, they're hardworking. They have a set of skills that might be helpful within the care industry. But that's just me being a little bit biased, and I kind of apologize for that, but I'm not going to change that bias. I just believe Filipinos make fantastic carers because the Philippines is a nation of carers. When people are at home in the Philippines, they look after their parents, they look after their grandparents, they're exposed to a life of care. And I think that's something that's helpful. And I'm sure you would agree with that.
I agree completely. My grandparents didn't go to a home, they didn't go to a care home, and they're surrounded by relatives, by family, their own children who looked after them. So when they died at home, surrounded by families. And for me, I mean, when I arrived in this country, it seems to me that as a strange thing that a lot of families, they send their parents to a care home. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, of course, but it's just a different culture. It's just the way we are, Malcolm.
Well, I think we all know this. I think a lot of it in the UK is down to financial pressures, isn't it? People would want a mortgage. They have to pay for that. They can't afford to stay at home and look after their relatives. So I don't blame people here. I fully understand understand the reason. And of course, people in the Philippines are much likely to live in one home. Maybe that's because children can't afford to go off and buy their own home. So I think there's a unique set of circumstances, and I don't think that's entirely voluntary, but it is what it is. And I think that's why people are exposed to care more in the Philippines than they are here. You know, people don't want to put their parents in a nursing home, but if they have to work till they're 80 to pay off their mortgage, I don't think we have any choice. So I do understand it from both sides.
Yes, it is a cultural thing. Yes. And
So just a couple more questions. You know, I see so many posts on Facebook, and you probably do agree with this, saying, can I marry somebody to get to the UK? And I'm looking for a husband, a British husband. But I just want to put out a word of caution. You know, sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes there'll be people pretending that they're British and they're from other countries trying to scam you. Sometimes a British guy might say, oh, I've got this wonderful situation. I own my house. And then the Filipino would come here and realize they're living in a council place with their parents and they haven't got any hope whatsoever. What would you say to Filipinos in order to caution them about this problem?
yes, I agree with you, Malcolm. It is actually there, especially now where we have easy access on social media. It's easy to find people thinking that, yes, I choose that person. I want to be with that person so that I can get out of here in this situation where I'm at. It's not as easy as that. You know, my advice would be careful, get to know that person, meet that person if possible. A lot of them will just, you know, actually I've had a situation where they called me up and say, look, we want to get married. Okay, I say, and then have you met each other? And they said, you know, she said, no, I haven't met this person. So it's an alarm bell for me, because you know, you just don't want to put yourself in that situation, not knowing who you're actually going to marry. So it's best to meet up first. It's part of the rules anyway, that you have to meet in person, get to know that person, and then see what happens. You know, don't go into it straight away and say, I want to marry him or her. It's best get to know the person to make sure that, you know, you want to be with that person for the rest of your life, or just be with him longer than longer than just 2 weeks in a holiday, things like that. You've got to, you know, assess the situation. And then if you think you are meant for each other and you want to be together, then yes, you know, apply to come to the UK, perhaps on a visitor visa first, and see how it goes for, you know, for the 6-month period. And if you think that you want to stay longer, then, and you want to get married, then apply for a fiancé visa. Then you can.
I think that's the point, isn't it? As far as I understand from the rules, you have to actually be married to somebody for 2 years, or at least, living with somebody for 2 years before you can get a fiancé visa. So all of these relationships from the Philippines, where somebody's maybe dating somebody online in the Philippines, if they went for a fiancé visa straight away, I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't think they'd be approved if they've never even met the person or visited the person.
No, definitely not, Malcolm. They won't be approved. You don't have to be with that person for 2 years to be able to apply for fiancé visa. But as long as you are, you can prove that you are in a relationship, even for less than 2 years, then you can, you know, apply for a fiancé visa. Because I've actually I've got the case where they've been together for less than, you know, a year, but they are in a relationship. It is a genuine relationship, and they want to get married. So you just have to, again, it's on a case-by-case basis. And for a fiancé visa, as I said, you've got to meet in person. You know, it's not enough like this. You know, you see them on camera. You really have to physically go there and meet.
That's great. Thank you so much. We'll just go for another break now. Thanks so much to my sponsors again, World Remit. Thank you to everybody who's watching and sharing. We'll go ahead and have another break.
Uy, kuya, nakalimutan mong birthday ni mama ngayon, no?
Walang problema. Magpapadala na lang ako sa World Remit. 1, 2, 3. Oh, ha? Ay, lagot. Si mama. mama tumatawag. Happy birthday, ma!
Salamat anak, natanggap ko na ang padala mong pera from World Remit. Akala ko nakalimutan mo na eh.
Siyempre, ma. Ako pa.
The wait is over. The show that you love is back. Pusong Pinoy, angkong ko, 644. Sponsor back. World ready.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, guys. I'm just interested, Attorney Dias. I'm really just interested in people who want to come here in search of work. You know, we both know this. There are so many adverts on Facebook coming over as a carer, a driver, a nanny, a house worker, and offered ridiculous salaries, $2,000, $4,000 a month. And this is happening all the time. And the sad reality is, Filipinos are being scammed on a daily basis. A little bit about the kind of jobs that Filipinos can do and apply from the Philippines and the rules surrounding this. And how do we know something's a scam?
If you want to come over here to work, as I mentioned earlier, you do have to meet the requirements of the rules, and there is a skill level. At the moment, it's level 6. And you're talking about like if you're a nurse or an engineer. With the nurses, they have, I'm sure, an established agency there where they could come over here and work for their employer, the hospitals, place, or even the residential care homes. As long as they have a contract, I think that's very important, and insurance, just in case anything happens. Now, if they're thinking of coming here as a domestic worker, then they cannot come here through an agency. They would have to be working already for that employer for at least a year. Now, as you know, Malcolm, you know, the rules changed for the domestic workers before they can settle here after living in the UK for 5 years. But now, as of 5th of April 2012, they changed it where they can only stay for 6 months, and that's it. You know, they've got to go back home. So if they say, oh, we're looking for nanny, looking for domestic worker, come over here, that's not the case. You can't just do that. You know, there's a pre-existing condition before you can come here under that, to come here as a domestic worker or a nanny. So just be careful. I would also say that if you are demanded, if you're demanded loads and loads of money, they're saying that, okay, we can find you an employer. Please be careful, because you've got to have a UK company registered with the Home Office. So that's the first thing you need to check, that they're actually able to sponsor someone from abroad because they're already registered with the Home Office. If they're not, then they can't do it. They've got to be registered first.
That's very helpful. I believe we have some greetings and also questions. So let's go ahead and let's flash those on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, do you want to read that?
Okay. From Cameron Hickey. Hi, my husband Pascal watching. Hi, Malcolm. It was good to hear you voted for Brexit. Oh dear. This is my mother, by the way, Malcolm.
Oh.
I married an Irish man. Pascal is Irish, so I totally agree about European EU control. So now the UK can decide these matters from Westminster. As a side point question, is there possibility of a wife or husband marrying an Irish citizen and acquiring access to the UK? Oh my goodness. He's making it difficult for me, isn't it? Yes, you can. I mean, the Brexit does not affect Irish citizens in the UK, so they can stay here. It does affect their dependents, though. So, if you're Irish citizen here in the UK, you don't have to worry. You can stay. If you did something, of course, criminal, you can be deported.
I think I believe I'm right in that Irish citizens, I think, have it a little bit easier in terms of actually settling with their family than we do over here. And that may be because so many people, I guess, in the 2012 were complaining about immigration, weren't they? When the Conservative government came in, a lot of people were complaining about too many immigrants. And I proposed then that they tightened up the rules as a result of that. Would you probably agree with that?
Well, tightening the rules for
people coming over in general. I know there was a bit of a backlash. People were concerned that we had too many immigrants. So unfortunately, for those people in a loving relationship and generally want to help our country, it's become more difficult as a result of that backlash, if you like.
Correct. Yes, and especially under the partner route, because they have introduced the financial threshold. You see, it's affected those who are just starting in life. If you just graduate and not able to earn 18,600, for example, and you have a partner from abroad and you want to sponsor, you can't do that. You've got to wait until you're able to afford it. And the same the other way, where if you've already been retired, not able to work at all, just living on your pension, and again, it would not be easy to meet the requirements because of the limited state pension you're getting, unless you have a private pension or a lot of savings to top it up, basically.
Which is a shame, really, because I guess if you maybe fall for somebody in the Philippines, it's almost like the government saying you can only marry somebody from within the EU. If you happen to fall in love with somebody from a non-EU country, it's almost, for some people, it's very, very hard to bring over their partner, which is a great shame. But are there any exceptions? For example, somebody might live in Birmingham. They might not have the minimum wage. They might not have the London waiting allowance. So because they happen to be outside of London, it might be more difficult for them to meet that minimum salary. Are there any exceptions to these rules?
Well, the minimum salary is blanket. So wherever you are, you still have to meet 18,600. Now, there is an exception to the rule. And that is basically under paragraph EX1 of the immigration rules, which means that you have to have insurmountable obstacle to returning to the Philippines. Both of you have to show you cannot return to the Philippines, for example, because there is a reason, an exceptional reason. And that would be, for example, if the partner has medical condition, an illness, which can only be treated in the UK. And also, if you have a British child, that child cannot be forced to go with you to the Philippines because the child is settled in the UK, born British, adopting life in the UK as British. So that's one of the exemptions.
And am I right in thinking that, to make a regular status application for a visit visa, I suppose you can make these kind of things yourself. It is possible to go online. But as far as I understand, it can be quite difficult. And once you've been refused, to go through appeals, am I right in thinking that in cases that you've mentioned that are particularly difficult, you would need the services of somebody professional? And what's your advice on this? I know we're not doing this to promote you or anything like that, but the reality is there are cases where I believe people should see an immigration lawyer because otherwise their application is going to be more difficult. What's your opinion on this?
See, I always tell people that to go for independent legal advice, a lot of people nowadays go on social media and ask for help, from people who are not qualified to give advice. I would suggest that if you are actually unsure, get help, get someone from a qualified immigration advisor or a solicitor. Not myself, somewhere else, but you can check these things if they're qualified by checking their regulatory body. For example, me as solicitor, you can check with the law society that I'm a registered solicitor. My name will be on the register. I'm actually regulated by the Solicitors Regulation Authority. I'm bound by ethical and professional standards. With the immigration advisors, they have their own register, so make sure you check as well that their name is on the register. There are different levels of immigration advisors, I believe. Some can just do the application. That's, I think, level 1. But if you're level 3, you can go to court. Whereas a solicitor, we can do everything. You know, we can litigate, we can make the application, we can go to court.
And even the High Court in exceptional circumstances. If
yeah,
there's
we
a
have the
matter
right
of
of all.
law.
Yes, yeah. So that's the difference between a solicitor and immigration advisor. And also I can cover other areas of law as a solicitor. So not just immigration, we actually do a family law, employment law, you know, business law. We do have a lot of companies coming to us to deal with their, for example, settlement agreement. Because of COVID, a lot of companies now, you know, thinking of, because of not being able to keep their employees, they're looking at the employment side of things, you see. So, you know, we do that as well. So that's it. People should really be getting proper legal advice. You know, I say that not just as a solicitor, but as someone who wants another person to make sure they get proper legal advice.
Can I just share a very sad story before we end this? And I was flying to the Philippines last year, and there was a guy on the plane who was absolutely screaming and crying and everything. He was surrounded by 3 immigration officers, and very sadly, he was being returned to the Philippines. He'd been here for much longer than 10 years, and he enlisted the help of somebody who called themselves an immigration advisor from some dodgy solicitor somewhere up north. And even when this guy was in detention, they were still saying, if you send me £5,000, I can regularize your stay. And it was a constant beg of money. And even when I spoke to the government officials on board the plane, I asked them, the guy recognized me, he knew me from social media. These people prey on you like vultures. There are so many people who pretend to be immigration advisors, and actually they're taking thousands and thousands of pounds. I get messages every day from Filipinos who say they've given £2,000, £5,000. There are sadly a lot of scammers in your industry. What can you say about that? It's really a problem. So many overstayers are being fleeced for thousands of pounds on a regular basis, which makes me so sad.
Yes, it is unfortunate, Malcolm. There is a problem in that in our industry. I would say though that if someone approaches you saying that if you send me this money, £5,000, and I can sort you out, just go home. You know, it's not worth it, because then you can go home, wait for 12 months and make another application. You see, as a solicitor, I am bound by code of conduct. It's not about the money. I want to make sure that when I make the application, I have done it according to the immigration rules. You know, it's again on moral grounds. I would make the correct application. I know a lot of some immigration advisors would say apply for asylum, even without the basis. They go somewhere else, they apply for asylum, they get it. But for me, if that's what you want, that's fine. But for me, as a solicitor, again, bound by ethical and professional standards, I will not do that. You know, if you don't listen to my advice, then that's fine. But if you go somewhere else and then decide you pay thousands of pounds to them so you can stay in the country, that's your choice. But for me, I would suggest, please don't do that. Go home, make a fresh application if you can after a period of time. Just avoid paying all this sum of money check out as well, as I said before, if there are actually qualified solicitors that will be doing your job for you. So be careful, please. That's all I can say.
I really appreciate that. You know, we've been able to share some excellent advice, and I really do appreciate your time. Where can people reach you? And as you say, you give some introductory legal advice. Can you tell me how that works?
Okay, we are on the website. We have our own website. It's www.diassolicitors.com. We're also on Facebook. You can reach out on Facebook. We do online booking system because of social distancing. We do try to avoid face-to-face meeting, but we use Google Meet or Zoom, and we give free initial consultation. So book online, then we can discuss your situation. I will give you your options, and then it's up to you whether you want to go ahead with it or not. But time and time again, I do get clients, you know, they come back to me after initial consultation. I still give them free advice, you know. So just look online. We're based in London, in Gray's Inn Road. And if you do want to book an appointment, it's easily done online.
You know, I really appreciate your time, and I know we have both the same values, I guess, and the same concerns in terms of Filipinos being scammed, if you like, and I know you're working tirelessly as well. So I would really just like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for your time. I'd like to thank you for supporting Filipinos in the United Kingdom, not only through your work in the Philippine Women's Association, but of course through the work that you're doing for the company, you know, and it's about your reputation, isn't it? You only need 1 or 2 Google reviews and it can cause you a real problem. And this is why I know you're meticulous and you take great care when you advise people. And I think that's so important nowadays, isn't it? Because you want people to recommend you to your friends. And I think that's the thing that I'm really appreciate about what you're doing. You're out there, you're giving this free advice to people. So I really would like to thank you.
Thank you very much for these kind words, Malcolm, and kudos to you. Well done. And again, you're a big supporter of the Filipino community. So yes, more power to you.
Thank you so much. Maraming salamat. You know, Atty Cystal Dias, her husband, wonderful family. I'd like to send you my greetings. I'd like to thank you also for your support. In fact, I'd like to thank everybody who's watching. Please share this. Please reach out to Atty Dias if you need any advice. You know, as she said, there's a free initial consultation. I'd like to say that I'm not being sponsored by Atty Dias for this. I'm not being paid to do this. I just generally believe that she's offering a great service. And, you know, it worries me that so many people nowadays are getting scammed online. And that's why you need to be particularly careful. Thank you so much again for watching. I'd like to thank World Remit for sponsoring this. You know, I can only do this through you guys and through your support. And I'd really like to thank you. Thank you so much. Next week, we're going to have another exciting episode. We're going to feature other members of the Filipino community, give advice on various matters. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Stay safe. Mabuhay Philippines. And thank you to everybody.
Uy, kuya, nakalimutan mong birthday ni mama ngayon, no?
Walang problema. Magpapadala na lang ako sa World Remit. 1, 2, 3. Oh, ha? Ay, lagot. Si mama tumatawag. Happy birthday, ma!
Salamat anak, natanggap ko na ang padala mong pera from World Remit. Akala ko nakalimutan mo na eh.
Siyempre, ma. Ako pa.